Transit. And time now is 16 minutes past 9. Let's do this.
Suckling on the teat of tech with Paul Brislen and Wammo on Kiwi.
It's time for a good old natter about technology. We do it with Paul Brislen from audent.wordpress.com. It's Paul's Tech Week, really, isn't it?
Good morning.
G'day there, Paul.
How are you?
Very good. Very good. You've been buried inside a conference for the past couple of days.
Buried alive.
Yeah.
Being eaten to death by red ants. That's how it's... Yes. A mobile termination rate conference in Wellington for 2 days.
Sounds like a snore fest right there.
Yeah. Well, it had its moments.
But,
No, not really.
No. We'll leave it at that then. We won't bore the rest of the population.
If anybody does want to know about it, I blogged extensively about it over at Geekzone, geekzone.co.nz/join the debate. You can read my transcripts of 48 hours in the hellmouth.
I actually saw that page. The one thing we should say is that page looked really cool. It was all skinned for you.
Yep.
To do that. It was
Well,
great.
you can do that with
Geekzone.
So if you're a geek and you want to post a lot of comments after you've logged in and subscribed and signed up, you don't have to subscribe, you don't have to pay anything. But once you've signed up, you get make 5 posts, and then a little thing pops up saying, "Hey,
great,
do you want to have a blog?" And lots of people do.
Okay.
And you can skin it any way you like. You can make it look like you like. I've got a designer, so off he went.
There you go.
Jolly nice.
If you want a local blog, go to Geekzone. Sort it out.
Yeah, bags are fun.
Talking about local stuff, Niwa have come out this week and said they're buying a supercomputer.
That's right. They're talking to IBM about a $12 million purchase, so they can play chess a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is of that ilk though. We're talking proper supercomputers. This isn't the first time Niwa's done it. Niwa, of course, tells us what the weather's like.
That's right.
So, in effect, we're talking about a computer that can open the window and poke its head out and say, yeah, it's not too bad. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But this one is a little bit better than that. It looks, it is a 34 teraflop IBM supercomputer.
Goodness.
So let me tell you about flops. These are floating operations per second. And this is a way of measuring seriously high-powered computing devices, the kind of things that can render Lord of the Rings on the fly.
Yeah.
And when you get up to megaflops, that's million floating operations per second. And then you multiply that by 1,000, you get to gigaflops. And then you multiply that by 1,000, and we're talking a very large number of operations per second now. You get to teraflops.
So this is going to be doing quite complicated calculations.
Well,
obviously.
it does climate modelling. So we're not just talking about opening the window and poking your head out. We're talking about, okay, given these trends, what's going to happen over the next 12 months and that kind of thing. And it's very important because we are incredibly reliant on weather here in New Zealand. Since so much of our international exports are farming products, and we're a small island nation, you need to know what the weather's going to be like for planning ahead.
Now, did I hear right that this computer was going to be cooled using seawater?
Quite possibly. They do. I do believe IBM has a huge research and development arm that looks into keeping these things cool.
Yeah.
Water cooling's not uncommon. You quite often see that in desktop PCs.
Yeah.
But seawater, perhaps there's some salinity issue that says yes, we must use seawater. It's IBM is leading the world. We talked about this a few weeks ago with DNA computing and stuff of that sort. IBM is one of the biggest spenders in research and development in these kinds of areas. So it's fantastic news. We'll have one of them here. This isn't the first time they've done this either. About I want to say 6 years ago, they bought what was then one of the world's top 20 computers, and I remember watching them crane it into the offices down in Khyber Pass in Auckland.
Crane it.
They had to take out a window and half the wall to get the thing in the building.
Wow.
And this thing's worth nearly $13 million. One of the single biggest investments in science in New Zealand in a very long time, and that's not a lot of money to be one of the biggest investments. So I'm a bit disappointed by that.
Yeah.
But great to see them doing it, and looking forward to some better weather.
What do you imagine it? Yeah, exactly. What do you imagine it looks like?
I imagine it's a large grey box with Intel inside written on the side.
Yeah. Yeah,
in
probably,
small
yeah.
letters. Yeah, and that'll probably be about it.
Yeah.
With a blinking light on it.
It probably looks quite different to the old computer that's being restored in the UK at the moment.
Well, if you think back to the computers of when I was a kid, we're talking valves and spinning tapes and rooms full of computers. Those would be incredibly advanced compared with the computer that is being restored in the UK. This is, of course, the Britain's oldest computer, the Harwell, which is off to the National Museum of Computing, which is in Bletchley Park, which is where they, of course, cracked the German codes to help win World War II.
But do you think it's actually a computer? I mean, if it's just made up of mechanical parts as opposed to chips that do and ones and zeros.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it really depends how you define a computer. Digital computer is what we're used to today.
Yeah.
The original use for the word computer was the person who entered the information into a computing machine. So it was a biological computer. But that name got transferred over time to the device on which these people work. And this is a machine that was built in 1949. So we're talking valves and punch cards. And this thing ran from the early 50s right through to 1973, performing basic mathematical calculations.
Right. Huh.
But we're talking quite complex stuff. It was used in the atomic energy industry in the UK, helping to build nuclear power plants and helping to design some of the materials they needed for that. So it's quite complex stuff. But I think it's quite important that we don't forget how far we've come and how fast that's developed. That's in 40 years. We've gone from a computer that presumably has about as much firepower as this laptop I'm looking at right now. And what's the next 40 years going to bring? It's just going to be quite astonishing, I think, to see just where we go from here.
Well, certainly that old computer wouldn't have been able to play a YouTube clip.
No. I don't think it could even find the internet with with two rubber gloves and a mirror, frankly. But there we are. However, YouTube is in the news again, as ever.
It is, yes.
Excuse me while I cough and splutter here.
I think it's YouTube are thinking about offering movie rentals.
Well, isn't that an interesting move? I mean, YouTube's the perfect platform for distributing video, and it gets written off a lot by the TV producers. And the TV studios and the TV networks for being, oh, please, it's all America's Funniest Home Videos and What My Cat Ate kind of videos. That's right.
And fights
it is.
And fights at Linfield College, apparently.
Yeah,
as well.
well, yes, apparently so. And it is. And that should be feared because the content can be swapped out for something else. And if the content today is fights at Linfield College, tomorrow it's the All Blacks playing Australia. And do you think Google's got enough money to buy the exclusive rights to the next round of the Rugby World Cup?
Absolutely.
I imagine they probably do. In which case, we'll all be on the internet watching these things instead of trying to buy Sky TV. And that is going to change a lot of people's approaches. If you start off with rental movies, I think people are quite ready and willing to do that online. They've already moved to a high-definition format for YouTube clips, so they're definitely gearing up for this kind of thing. I think it's going to be very interesting. It's the internet at its finest. It's going to wipe out the middlemen. No longer will you have to wait for television to decide when the show will air. You just watch it direct from the States when you're good and ready.
Well, hopefully there won't be geolocating the movie rentals on YouTube.
Well, see, now Americans do like to do this, don't they? They like to say, well, yes, it's the World Wide Web in America. Yeah. And if you're in Hawaii, that's overseas. So, yeah, you can have it. So now we've covered the rest of the world as well, America and Hawaii. And, some Europeans might want it later on, but we'll get round to them. And the rest of the world, you can forget about it. And that would be a bit of a nightmare, I think. Now, Google is operating all around the world. It does have a very international workforce, so you would hope they think about these things. But, you can just imagine them doing that first, can't you? We'll see it in about 5 years' time when they're good and ready to let us have it.
Well, that's right. We need to get rid of localized rights, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and that's a big issue, isn't it? You really want to harmonise copyright issues right across the planet, and we can't even harmonise them right across the country at the moment. So it's definitely something that needs to be worked on. But you can imagine that's a 20-year crusade. to try and get that sorted. So, yes, it's going to be an interesting one, but something that I think we need to do, because otherwise we'll just get left out. We'll just get bypassed.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Paul.
That's quite all right. Anytime.
The show notes from a couple of weeks ago are now up at audent.wordpress.com. That's something that we were talking about 2 weeks ago. So it's worth going and checking out your blog this week. Go and do that. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.